Olympic Stadium in Atlanta. This summer could ensure lasting fame for Gwen Torrence, Atlanta's hometown favorite, who longs to be a diva.
Every girl who's ever stepped up to the starting line shares the same dream: to be the world's fastest female. Gwen Torrence, however, seeks a different crown.
Oh, I love the queen. I love being called the sprint queen. The world's fastest woman seems so athletic, but being called a sprint queen is more like being a diva or something. I'm a running diva.
And like a true diva, there's no shortage of attitude.
All 100-meter people have attitude, and some are good and some are bad. Arrogant, cocky, too confident, overconfident, obnoxious. For those 10 seconds, I am all those things that comes along with trying to be a champion.
But on the world's biggest stage, primed to give the performance of her life, the diva hit a wrong note.
My most disappointing race would be the 100 meters in Barcelona. I heard the gun go off, but I didn't hear it. And before I knew it, the race was off without me. I had the worst start I've ever ran.
She finished 4th, then ignited a firestorm. Without naming names, she said 3 of the finalists had used performance-enhancing drugs.
I didn't believe that our finals was a drug-free race, but the media ran away with it and said, well, I said the 3 medalists, I had to say them because those were the only ones to beat me. I didn't get 4th place because of my beliefs about performance-enhancing drugs. I got 4th place because I got a bad start.
The road to redemption starts and ends here in her hometown in the 100. An event made for a diva. Colorful, emotional, explosive.
It is a battle. We are at war. Being in the 100 is very aggressive, and if you're not, you'll fall by the wayside.
Atlanta's own, technically Lithonia, Georgia, Gwen Torrence, who turned 31 years old on Wednesday. And she and Gail Devers are headed for their showdown in the women's 100-meter finals. That's a rivalry that goes all the way back to 1987 when they were college competitors at the NCAA championships. Gwen Torrence running for Georgia, Gail Devers for UCLA, finished 1-2 in those championships.
Well, I think with Gwen Torrence, everybody asks her all the time, you know, she says, they say, are you trying to get revenge for what happened in 1992? No, I think for her, it's more personal redemption. She has a personal problem with herself of not performing up to par back in 1992. She thought that she should have won that gold medal, obviously stating that with the false start, that was the reason why she didn't win. So she feels that it's time for her to show everyone that she should have been an Olympic champion. Of course, in Atlanta, where else to do it? Your hometown.
Is, Craig, this a bitter rivalry between Gwen and Gail?
I think Gwen likes to motivate herself by running against other people. You know, she doesn't only run her own race. I think we said earlier about Gail Devers, who we see here, she doesn't have that sort of aggression that we're used to seeing very typically among male sprinters. Gwen tends to have it. Gail just is motivated by overcoming the obstacles that have been placed in her path as she's tried to become a great runner and has succeeded, obviously.
Gwen has been the subject of recent national publication stories, Sports Illustrated and Newsweek. Some of them something less than favorable. Interesting to see her husband and coach, Manly Waller, saying he might not show her a couple of those.
Yes, he definitely won't. I think that some of the articles, of course, one of the articles in Sports Illustrated went back and showed how Gwen grew up and things like that. And if you look at the way she did grow up and where she did grow up, you might see some of the anger and the aggression that she has learned as a child and things like that. So that's one thing that has worked for Gwen Torrence. I think sometimes she might look back and think maybe I shouldn't have said some of those things, but I think Gwen is older and I believe wiser at this point, and if she looks back, she probably wouldn't make some of the decisions that she had made in the past.
I give her high marks for opening her doors to just about anybody to come and do those interviews. She's been a lot more open with us. We saw her during the indoor season and the outdoor season. And I think she has a good attitude towards it. She says, hey, some people won't write positive things, but many people will.
Gwen Torrence and Gail Devers in their showdown. Remember, the top 3 will make the Olympic team. And as we said earlier, perhaps the emphasis isn't on winning but making the team. But you've got to think that the way this rivalry is between the two of them, who beats the other is going to be pretty important.
Yeah, no matter what they say, they want to win this. They want to win this race. It's an important race for them to win.
And speaking of top female competitors, there is Jackie Joyner-Kersee. We documented her problems, her injuries, her last attempt at making an Olympic berth. I've already said this will be her final Olympic competition, and she is leading the heptathlon. But she just has not been as sharp as we expect her to see. Is that just because of age or nagging injuries, or will she be all right when the Olympics do roll around in Atlanta?
Well, hopefully she will be all right. I mean, we remember back in 1985 at the National Championships, she was subpar there. She had a lot of injuries, and we said that she would be back at the World Championships in Gothenburg. She went there and had to withdraw from the heptathlon and finished 6th position in the long jump, which was a very big disappointment for her. I think this is a big moment for Jackie Joyner-Kersee, and I think injuries at her age, they take a little more time to heal. As everybody knows, when they get older, they don't snap back like they used to. But I know Jackie is focusing on the heptathlon and making the team.
Meanwhile, the showdown, Gail Devers and Gwen Torrence. And there's some others in here that could win too. Here are the lane assignments in the women's 100 final. In lane 1, Cheryl Taplin from Ontario, California, and LSU on 3 NCAA champion relay teams. Lane 2 is Carlette Guidry, Olympic gold medalist in the relay in 1992. She's capable. Lane 3 is Gail Devers, the defending Olympic champion. Looked a little shaky earlier in the year, but ran under 11 seconds all 3 of her preliminary races here. Right next door, lane 4 is Gwen Torrence, world champion at 100 meters. She wants that Olympic gold medal, sometimes angry, sometimes charming. Gwen Torrence is the favorite. In lane 5 is Christy Gaines. If you were with us earlier, you saw her press Gwen Torrence in her semifinal, just finishing 2nd, member of the gold medal winning 4x100 relay team at last year's World Championships. Lane 6, keep your eye on this young lady. She's an LSU runner who has won 2 NCAA titles, including on June 1st, her latest, and she is definitely on a roll. She's lowered her personal best in all 3 rounds here, including 10.97 in the semifinals. In lane 7 is Danette Young, also like Gwen Torrence from Lithonia, Georgia. She ran a personal best, 11.06 in her semifinal. And in lane 8 is Inger Miller, 24 years old on Wednesday, daughter of the 2-time Olympic medalist from Jamaica, Lennox Miller. That's the field for the women's 100 final. All eyes on Gwen Torrence on the left, Gail Devers, and now reverse.
Now, as you take a look at the back of Gail Devers, a smaller woman there, she is one of the type of people who likes to focus on herself. She says, I am not worried about anybody else in this race. I run my race in my lane, and that's the way I like to do it.
I think 2 keys to this race. One is Gail Devers has normally had a better start than Gwen Torrence. That means Torrence has to think that she's going to start with a deficit. The other is Torrence is bookended on one side by Gail Devers, the other by Christy Gaines. It's going to be a lot for her to maintain her composure through the whole 100 meters.
Fair start. Devers got away really well. Torrence is there on her heels with Christy Gaines and Hill. It is Gail Devers, but here comes Gwen Torrence coming to the finish. Torrence goes in front. It looked like Devers was there with DeAndre Hill coming in 3rd, and those would be your U.S. Olympians.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Gwen Torrence got out very well. You expected Gail Devers to get out first. She did get out first. But at that point, Gwen Torrence had to say, do not worry. Gail will come back to me. She had to come up into her running position. She ran very well. She was very, very patient. We have seen that with a lot of the male sprinters who come on at the end of the race. Do not worry where you are at 20 meters because it's where you are at 100 meters, and Gwen Torrence was the winner. She ran an excellent race.
Legal wind, and the time unofficially 10.82, which would be the best in 1996.
And match her personal best, so that augurs well for the Olympics coming up. in about a month's time. And you see the reaction of Gwen Torrence. It's not one of joy, it's really one of relief. She knew she was in for a tough race. And as Carol said, I think it was her composure allowing Gail Devers to just get a little bit ahead of her, but maintaining her concentration. And it was interesting, when she came by, Devers really fell apart a little bit. You almost wondered whether Devers was going to hold on for an Olympic spot. DeAndre Hill looks like she came up and got second, and Devers did hold on for third.
Well, I'll tell you right here, you see both women very focused on their lane. Gail Devers on the right side of your screen got out very well. But look at Gwen Torrence, and it's funny when you see sprinters like this, sometimes they automatically drift to one side of the lane or the other. But you're watching right here, watch Gail Devers. She's starting to lose her form. She's starting to kick out. That is not what she needs to do in order to keep going forward. And I think that DeAndre Hill might have nipped her at the tape for second position. We will be strong in Atlanta, I'll tell you that.
So the U.S. has two fine sprinters leading the way to the games. There's the official photo finish. Gwen Torrence, with that late burst, takes the women's 100 final.